Well, let's get some more analysis now from Simon Mabon, who's a professor of international politics at Lancaster University here in the UK. He specialises in Middle East studies. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Mabon, for joining us. What's your take on this? Well, firstly, the ceasefire proposed by Israel and the US, as well as Hamas's response that we've had, this 135-day truce plan. Can they meet in the middle? Is there any hope for optimism?
That's the hope, I guess, with this proposal and counter-proposal. The idea is to try and get somewhere in the middle that all parties can agree to. And that will mean that there'll have to be some compromises, that parties might have to accept some things that they wouldn't necessarily want to, necessarily right at the start at least. And that is where it gets tricky in the sense that both sides, both Israel and Hamas, have a number of different factional elements to their internal logics. And getting a coherent agreement amongst those different factional groupings is going to be a real challenge. And all the while, there's a need to build trust between the two sides, which is going to be incredibly difficult amidst the perennial fear that this could erupt in another ground invasion, another ground incursion, or indeed more rockets, more fighting from Hamas.
Mm-hmm. And in a practical sense, if they do manage to overcome these internal dynamics between the two sides, actually implementing any of this, for example, the three 45-day phases, all of the different exchanges of prisoners and hostages, just how difficult is that to actually implement? And could it happen in the timeline that's being proposed?
It's incredibly difficult to implement because all it takes is for one rogue element, one splinter group, one spoiler to stray from the initial plan, and then all of the trust, all of the goodwill that had built up to get to this point is undone, is thrown out of the window. So it's incredibly difficult, incredibly precarious, but I think there is a general desire, there's a lot of pressure to get this ceasefire deal, or to get a ceasefire deal, I should say. So, yeah, it's incredibly difficult, but it's incredibly important at the same time.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that pressure. We know that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is under increasing pressure from the families of the Israeli hostages. Is it a case as well on the Palestinian side that Hamas are being pushed as well by the population there under incredible pain and pressure themselves, of course? You know, how much do the domestic political considerations influence all of this?
Yeah, they're huge. I mean, the Palestinian population in Gaza has endured a blockade, has endured a devastating bombardment over the past 115 days. And that comes on top of the years of blockade that have limited goods and supplies getting into Gaza. And so there is a huge amount of pressure on Hamas to try and find a resolution that can allow those necessary supplies in. But at the same time, on the Israeli side, there's pressure from the families of hostages, but also on the right of the political spectrum, the sort of the settler movements that exert a great deal of political pressure in the Knesset. That means that it's very, very difficult to address those competing pressures amidst serious divisions and differences over what happens next in Gaza from the Israeli side.
Professor Simon Mabon from Lancaster University, great to get your thoughts today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.